Here we are. Welcome everybody to the Fall Line with KS and Company. I'm Dave Capron. I'm here with my podcast partner, Angelo Ross. Angelo, we have to open this podcast with a huge shout out to our great friends of the podcast, and especially our huge supporter, Blizzard Technica, because you finally received your 88 anomalies that are sitting behind you right there. You're going to be able to take out to the National Academy to Big Sky in Montana. I've got over here, I got the 94s. They sent me the 94s. I've been on for the last couple weeks, and they're pretty killer, man. You are going to get excited. I know you're going to want that ski behind you on Alpine and on Telly next year, because I am definitely mounting up a pair for Telly and getting some Alpine. So they've been testing great. But thanks out there to Blizzard Technica for doing that for us and getting on some skis to let you know how they're doing. They're skiing awesome. Anybody going to National Academy, Blizzard's going to be out there with a tent. You're going to want to jump on there. We got the 84s, the 88s, the 94, and Angelo, what's the wide one? Is it 104, 102, or 104 is the big anomaly?
I think 104.
Yeah. I mean, killer. Maybe you guys will get some snow out there. It would be great. But yes, thank you to Blizzard Technica for the support of Angelo and I on snow and off snow here on the podcast. We're super excited for the future with them. And anybody out there, if they can help out and support Blizzard Technica, because they support us a ton, that would be awesome. We also want to shout out to Nick's Boot Fitting and Nick Blaylock over there in Vermont next to Mount Snow. Nick is amazing getting boots set up and does great work for Angelo and I. I think Don might even go to Nick. Yeah, he's shaking his head yes.
I've been to Nick. Yeah. Wonderful work. Yeah.
And we also want to put a big thanks out to Rollerblade and Miles Cotter Sparrow for supporting the podcast. And just to let everybody know, there's going to be a couple skate to skis this year at down at Big Snow next to the American Dream, both on the blades and then going in on snow. And then I think there's going to be at least 3 other events with Miles with Rollerblade with events for PSA off snow this summer and fall. So look for those coming up. I'm hoping to see one, Angelo, over at Gunstock. Maybe you'll come up and we'll do one over at Gunstock. Maybe we'll get down to Big Snow. It would be super cool to do that stuff. But I'm just super excited for this one here, Angelo. We've got Don Haringa today. Don has not been on the podcast yet, and I don't know why we haven't done that, but I think this is pretty awesome to have you today, Don. Don has been the Director of Education Programs for PSIA-AASI Eastern Division for over a decade. Don's going to tell us in a few minutes here probably how many years, days, and months and all that stuff. But Don is also an Alpine examiner emeritus, been an examiner a long time, and he's not done with that. He's going to be out on the road with us next year. And then a really cool thing this year that he is a PSIA-AASI National Lifetime Award winner. He received that this year, has his jacket next to him, which is super cool. So congratulations on that, Don, and congratulations on all the work in all these years. Look at that. Awesome. I love it. And while we're at it, just a shout out to, it's been on Facebook. If people haven't seen, I knew it was coming, that Lisa Dutto over at, has retired from Waterville Valley. She was the ski and ride snowboard school director over there. She's been there for quite a while, and she had her birthday and retirement all at the same time this past week. So she's having a big week, and I just wanted to put a shout out to her because she's been super supportive over the years. We've had events and training at Waterville and helping us set them up. We just had a humongous Alpine development team tryout there that was super successful, and it was because of the support of Waterville Valley and Lisa Dutto over there helping us out. And happy birthday and congratulations on your retirement. And I thought it's a great way leading off with that, Don, because our resorts are so supportive of us here in the East, and the relationship that you have to have as the Director of Education Programs with those resorts to have the event schedule we have pull off must be amazing. And how does that whole relationship come to be so good?
Well, I think it's because, first of all, the people working at the resorts, like our organization, we hope. But they're amazing with us, and they do so much for us. They host our resorts. They provide tickets for the people going to the events. They're always looking to help us out in any way that they can. Fortunately, I've got some great people, there are great people in the office who are in touch with them on a regular basis, like Melissa and James. So anyway, they've been fantastic over the years. I couldn't have asked for more support.
Yeah. So before we get into it, Angela, like there was a couple things I got to ask Don. Like you mentioned Melissa and James. It was crazy this year. You had to pull off, and those two I know were huge in it. Pulling off there was one exam that had to go from Blue, I think, to Hunter, and then one from Jiminy to Mount Snow, and those happened like in the same week.
Yeah. Again, it's the people in the office, and James and Melissa. We're moving events around and calling everyone and calling the resorts who were like, yeah, sure, bring it. So again, we had great support from the resorts who took the events. The resorts that couldn't run them because of the weather were kind of bummed, but very cooperative. And so anyway, it is amazing how that team in the office works. It's James and Melissa are the ones that the members talk to a lot. But behind the scenes, Jody and Regina and Karen and Thessaly and the whole gang, they all work together to get that done.
Pretty intense, man. That's a lot of details, Angelo.
I think it was last year. It could have been the year before. Don, you might even remember. I had a stance and alignment event going at Seven Springs with Greg Hoffman, and it was getting extra spring-like. And I was to conduct an FS1 event the following 2 days, and Seven Springs decided to conserve snow and shut down. And I reached out to, I think I sent James a text from the chairlift. We were wrapping up the stance and alignment event. It was about 3:45, and I sent James a text and said, hey, I think Seven Springs is going to be closed tomorrow. And by the time I got off snow and was unbooted, he and Melissa had reached out to every participant, reached out to a different resort, and got us moved. I didn't have to do anything. It was flawless. And they really work hard behind the scenes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they're fantastic. I couldn't work with better people. So I'll probably say that more than once during this podcast.
Yeah, but it's amazing. I mean, those are the things that you've had to do as the director of education programs with your team for years. And I don't think, I mean, it's enormous to do our schedule and put together all the discipline, because it's not just Alpine. I mean, Angel's a little bit in the kids' world. I get in the telly a little bit too, so we're in a few other disciplines. But you kind of get into your world and you forget, like, the snowboard's going on, the adaptive world's going on, cross country. I mean, there is just so many moving pieces and parts to it that you have to keep track of. It is amazing. I don't think the members realize just what it's like to put one event together, never mind everything that's going on at once.
Yeah, and they do an amazing job. I mean, the balls are in the air. It's just constant juggling all the time, and they're amazing. The cool thing is nobody panics. Something is wrong. It's like, okay, how do we deal with it? Where can we go? What can we do? Do we have to cancel it? Maybe sometimes we do. Sometimes we can move things. And it doesn't always work out for all the members who were signed up for it. I mean, that's part of the thing, part of the deal. And we feel badly that happens, but a lot of times those things are just out of our control.
Yeah. But that must be a huge rewarding part too, to be able to pull it off for especially those two exams, the members that have been working that hard, and then the snow issues down south at Jiminy, at Blue. It wasn't anything the resorts; it was just the weather was horrendous and rain. And then to pull it off, you must have had a lot of folks pretty happy.
Yeah. The people were. I mean, at first they're like, because they're all set to go where they were originally scheduled to go, but. They made their hotel plans. They were able to change them and made it to the assessments. And for the most part, everybody was really happy to be able to not mess up their schedule and have to wait a month. They were really good sports about it.
Yeah, that's cool. And we are here to start, we're talking about what's just happened in this season, but I want to go way back, man, because I don't even know this. And I can't believe I haven't asked it, because this is like my favorite question on the podcast. And everybody loves when I have somebody on first to ask this is like, do you remember your first time on skis? Was it in a lesson? Was it with family? Was it friends? Were you with, kind of a school group and got pushed down the hill? What was it like? Do you even remember?
So I guess there's my first time on skis, and then there's my first time at a ski area.
Okay.
So when we were little kids, we would go sledding. I grew up in Ithaca, New York, and there are some hills up around, well, Ithaca is surrounded by hills, but there's some good hills up near the Country Club of Ithaca and the Cornell University Golf Course that were great for sledding and stuff like that. So we would go up as a family. And my dad just had some old wooden skis that just had a strap that you would slide your boots into and stand on them and try and make it to the bottom of the hill. So that was my first experience with skiing, and I always thought that was really cool. And then somewhere along the line, I was doing a lot of ice skating and a little hockey. My sisters started going on school trips to Greek Peak, and they were learning to ski. And my dad upgraded my ski equipment to a pair of cable bindings and some rubber ski boots, lace-up ski boots. And one of my sisters showed me how to do essentially a snowplow turn. Pretty soon I was off to Greek Peak and riding the rotos and falling in love with it. And it was just my playground. So the next year, my dad actually got me skis with metal edges. It was so cool. I could turn to do something other than just go sideways. And then after that, I got involved in a school program. This was in junior high, and then by the time I was in high school, I had season passes and a locker at the resort. It was back in the day, so we would hitchhike out to Greek Peak. And Cornell students would usually pick us up and get us out there. And some parent would get talked into coming out and bringing us home late at night. And but yeah, had a great time and skied a lot.
Oh, that is super cool. And how much vert does Greek Peak have?
It's around 800, 900. I think they're saying 900. So
yeah.
I don't know where that is from and to, but.
And how did it grow from there to finally saying, hey, I'm going to teach skiing? Was it after college, during college?
Yeah, it was, well, sort of in the during part. And I was going to a college where it was actually, you would head toward Greek Peak, and then you'd have to make a left in this 110 to get to the college. And I kept going straight. And I ended up at Greek Peak. It's hard to believe. But I got involved with freestyle a little bit. I was doing some bump skiing, and back then you had to do jumps and the valet skiing to get points along with the bumps. But it was the bumps that I loved doing. And sort of from that, I met some of the coaches who worked in the freestyle program at Greek Peak, and they talked me into, after high school, coming out and coaching there and helping with the team. So I started with that in, I think it was 1975. And then, that worked its way into teaching full time. And the daytime supervisor, a guy by the name of Pierre Mayotte, in his world, if you wanted to teach advanced lessons, you had to do racing. So I learned how to race and that sort of thing. And it just progressed. And then turned into just a love of my life and just a great way to, make some money, not a lot of money, but make some money and have a really great, fulfilling life.
Yeah, so was the money good enough to buy a beer back then?
Yeah, that was amazing. So the money actually, at the time wasn't bad. It was probably about twice minimum wage when I started. That's obviously changed a little bit over the years, but you could make enough as a full-time instructor to drive an old beat-up car and rent an apartment with some friends and be a ski instructor. So it was great.
Super. That is cool. As long as they can afford beer, Angelo.
Well, beer and P-Tex, and you pretty much have whatever you need.
Yeah, because there's a lot more P-Tex being used back then. I remember when I was a kid, and because I was skiing in the 70s and 80s on, we didn't have a lot of snowmaking way back then, and then started coming around in the 80s. So there was a lot of P-Tex work. You had your rock skis, I imagine.
When I was first getting going, we thought it was pretty cool when we were night skiing and you could see sparks coming off the skis.
Yeah, I do remember that. Oh man,
My dad didn't think it was so cool, but
My dad didn't think it was cool either when we start getting the mud spots at the end in the spring, and I would just lean back and just go straight across them. He's like, I have to pay for those things. Oh, that was great. So how did the cert process go? Because I'm thinking, I have never asked you, but I imagine you went to full cert, and it probably wasn't the associate yet.
So I was going to go to full cert. It was probably around 77, 78, somewhere in there. And I was getting ready to send in my money, and I bent my skis. And I was like, I'm either going to get new skis or go to cert on bent skis. So I decided I'd put it off. And so I got the new skis. And it was a couple of years later, and was actually the second year of associate that I got mine. So that was in 1980.
Yeah. Okay.
Did that up the road from you a little bit at Loon Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Terry Barber and I hopped in my Volkswagen, and we went over, and along with a bunch of other people from Greek Peak, and our tech director came with us, and we had an awesome time, and everybody passed. So there was much rejoicing. And that was associate. So I got into like a registration clinic before that year.
Yeah. Yeah. So associate, then full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full was in 82 at Elk Mountain.
Oh.
And Murmur Blakesley was also in that exam. She was 8 months pregnant, which was, and we were really scared that she was going to fall, and we'd hear crying, and then we'd hear her.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Some horrendous falls, but she survived it, and so did her son. So, anyway.
Oh my God, Murmur is something else, man. She's crazy. Oh, I can see that happening. So, I've heard some other names too that you came skiing up through at Greek Peak. Like, there's been some names other than just Terry Barber and you. Like, what are some of the other Ed staff names?
Well, I don't know if you ever met him, but Mike and Dave Cobb were at Greek Peak. And then Gail Setlock, Chris Easton, mentioned Terry, Tangi Barber, and made it as far as ETS. Mick O'Gara was at Greek Peak for quite a while. Liz Starr, who else? Seems like there were others. But anyway, there were quite a few coming out of there. And it created a really awesome, healthy competition. I mean, if we weren't teaching, we were out training and challenging each other and giving each other feedback. So it was a great atmosphere to advance up through the different levels and onto the dev team and beyond.
The hotbed at Greek Peak with 800 vertical feet. That's crazy. It's awesome. And I didn't know Elk. I didn't know he had, I mean, because I haven't gone back that far. I didn't know that Elk had the full cert. That's pretty cool that they had one down there.
Yeah, they had us doing some interesting things. Some human tricks, of course. And back then, you had to race slalom and giant slalom. At that point, they weren't timing it anymore, but it was a double pole slalom and GS. And so you had to show that you knew how you work your way through all of it and read the terrain and the gates and all that. So, anyway, it was interesting. It was fun.
I love hearing this because I love how people, I even hear it this winter, like the level 3 has gotten harder. And it's like the more stories, and I know the war stories from like Woody Woodward, and the crew, Joe Wood, and it's like, I'm not sure it's gotten easier. I mean, I'm not sure it's gotten harder. I don't think if anything, and not that it's gotten easier, but like there's things that we don't have to do. Like we don't have to go through gates and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say that in level 3 now is at least as challenging, but I don't know that it's harder.
Right.
And so I think what's harder is that, there are fewer people full time, who are going for it. And it's just hard to train for something like level 3 when you're a weekend warrior. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult.
Yeah.
But I was going through it. We, most of us, first of all, had some sort of competitive background. We were doing racing or freestyle or something. And we were on skis quite a bit, teaching full time. The training programs, we we were allowed to train about as much as we wanted to. It wasn't necessarily something where we had to be paid back then. And so it didn't hurt the budgets of the resorts as much. So anyway, it was great. It was just a wonderful, like I said, competition, and all friendly.
Yeah.
Well, also friendly.
Well, every time we go to Killington, which we go there quite a few times during the year, I always think, because that was where I passed my level 3 skiing. And I think about coming over East Fall, where we had to do some short turns with Mr. Shostak and coming down Double Dipper. And I had my 205 Olin Cross Mountains. And, I'm on my nice shaped blizzards now. And I'm like, ooh, this is a lot easier now with these than it was then.
Certainly different. It's the nice thing about the straighter skis is they didn't come through the fall line and carry speed the way the shape skis do. So
yes.
You have to find other ways to get the brakes on.
That's right. Angela, you did yours on a pair of big skis, at least big for you, right? For your level 3?
No, you know what? I was just trying to remember. I either did my level 3 skiing on a K2 Merlin 5 or the Merlin 6, and I can't remember. Yeah. The Merlin 5 was black and red. It was like an all mountain GS build, and the 6 was the slalom build, and I can't remember which one. It was one of those two. I started to teach in 1990. I waited until 94 to do my level 1. And I did that on a K2-4. That was the first year the 4 came out.
Yeah.
So
Luckily, I had those nice shape stuff for as we went into the dev team and that. But I was just crossing over there when I was hitting level 3. But I have to ask you, Don, do you remember the ski you were on for your associate and your full cert?
Well, for level 2, and the only reason I bring this up is because it was sort of tragic. But I was on a Kneisel White Star, and I think I was skiing in Dina Fit boots at the time. And those were the White Stars that had like the crisscross pattern on them, and it kind of looked like a checkerboard. And they had been loaned to me by the rep, who was like, you should go to cert on new skis. I'm like, cool. So at the end of the last day, I saw my tech director and a couple of the other members kind of gathering about halfway down one of the trails, and I went ripping on down to see them. And about 2 turns from getting to them, I hit a piece of granite and blew the sidewall off the skis that I bought. Oops.
Oh, that's all right.
I didn't forget those skis. And then for level 3, I was on a pair of 205 Kesley's World Cup slaloms and Dolomite boots.
Yeah. And now the things that all members always usually remember. It's amazing. If a member doesn't remember the next question, it's crazy. And I haven't asked you this before. Do you remember who your examiners were?
For level 2, I do remember that I had Jim Cardinelli as my kind of pre-course guy. And I don't remember who the other 2 are at level 2. And I should try and figure it out one of these days. Level 3, I had, let's see, it'll come to me. Izzy Tour was the pre-course, which was scored. You had to pass that in 3 days. And then, I had, Charlie Rockwell, and, Monty Rios.
Yeah.
Those were the 3. So I had a couple hundred boys and Charlie.
Oh, and Jim, he was a big race hound. Jim Cardinelli.
Yeah. He appreciated that we at least looked like we had some racing in our background.
I can imagine. He was pretty straightforward. I remember he was scored. I'm pretty sure it was the dev team when I went, and somebody came down and they were supposed to give feedback, and he said to me, "If you don't give feedback to every single person every single time, you're not going to pass this thing." I remember him yelling at the candidate. Yeah, I mean, he was straightforward. This is it. Do it or you're done.
To say that was good workout.
Oh man. Oh, so cool, man. It's funny to think back to those exams. Like I think back to my exams, and my first was the associate, and I had Peter Palmer, Tom Chassie, and Woody Woodward. And those three guys have had such an impact on me. I mean, Pete Palmer was amazing. I skied with him a ton leading up and through all my exams, through dev team, through ETS. I mean, he was always on the road, and I think he was associate director of education programs or something for Sue then.
Yeah.
So he was, and then Chassie I went to train with at Attitash, and then found out Woody was there. And then, my God, getting put in the corner and getting asked questions like that's my thing. Like you had Terry and all these guys that you were kind of training with. Was there anybody there that like would put you in the corner? Or did you have that along the road as you're going to ed staff, someone that would just put you in the corner and just keep asking questions? And every time Woody would ask me a question, I'd give him an answer. He'd just laugh and like, nope.
Yeah, that would have been Easton. Easton used to grill us all the time. And you'd get that Fonzie voice going. You'd be like, hey, you bugs, you better know this stuff. It's like, so. Anyway, but we would get grilled quite a bit by him.
That's kind of what Andrea does to you now, Dave, right? Just asks you a question.
Yes.
And she says, laughs and says no.
Yeah, no, that's not it, Dave. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, pretty much. Oh my God. But it is funny we think back and so many of those we skied with, helping us along the way. And Woody was amazing for me, one of my mentors. And that's kind of, I want to ask you a little bit about like, just as things have evolved. I asked Woody, this is back when we were first getting into shape skis in the late 90s, and we were going to dev team and ETS on them. And I remember getting ready for dev team. We weren't sure we should go on them or not, because it was like if we went on the shape skis, it was like, were we cheating, and would they score us down, or we go on the straight skis? But I was asking Woody back then, just because he had come through so much. I mean, skis were barely built when Woody started skiing, that old guy. But as you went through and all the changes in the
back then.
Yeah, I know. What are some of the things you gained, do you believe, from skiing and all the different, you said you started your dad had your pair of skis with a cable binding, a leather boot, and no edges. Then you went to edges. But what was that like transitioning, and how has that evolved for you? Like, has it helped?
I think it has. The boots and the skis that I had, and all the skating I did, you couldn't sit back. And so being centered was, the name of the game right from the start. I basically learned to ski on equipment that didn't have the boots didn't have a lot of support. And the skis weren't really, made to do a lot. You could pivot them back and forth, but they didn't have, much side cut or even for the day. And let alone the first pair didn't have the metal edges. It's, you learn to balance, and that was, I think, a big thing for me. And also because they were, all the equipment was very light, it was easy to turn parallel pretty early along the way. Thinking back, it was probably some version of a stem Christie or a wedge Christie or whatever we want to call it. I doubt I was actually turning, tipping both skis and turning them exactly at the same time, but it was close. And then, not too many years into it, my dad sprung for a pair of Yamaha all-around ones for me with Tyrolia step and bindings, and that blew my mind, changed my world. And some boots with some plastic on the side instead of just rubber or leather. And the things, all of a sudden there was control and a lack of flex.
And grooming has come along. Like I remember, because I skied at Mount Whittier here, just 8 miles from me here as a kid, and never had snowmaking. And so we had to have snow, which thankfully way back when, in the 70s at least, as we started hitting the 80s when I was in junior high and high school, we started losing the snow. But the snow, it was different. It was, if it froze up, you skied it. If it was wet that day, that's what you got. It was, and the grooming wasn't tillers, it was rollers and drags and all that kind of stuff. And how much do you feel that has played into your versatility?
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering how that's played into your versatility, in your opinion, in your skiing.
I think all those things sort of combined to give you better balance and better use of the skills. Just because it changed so often, and it was never anything like the groomers that we go out on today. So it definitely made you, gave you a lot of perceptual learning because things constantly changed. And so you were being thrown forward and back. You wouldn't hold, you'd still go skiing. I mean, that was the big thing. I mean, and it became, as grooming got better and better, it became one of those things where you were actually kind of excited about, a really icy wind-blown day because, you could coerce other people to go out and ski with you because it was good for you. It helped your skiing. Anyway.
So when you look back at the education staff back then, versus the education staff now, because you've been on the ed staff for quite a while, and how long you were the dope for over a decade? How long was it exactly?
So I started in October of 2012, and I just finished. So
yeah, quite a while. And as I say, the dope, it's like, that's kind of our short in-house of the Director of Education and Programs, the DOEP, which I think Mickey Sullivan coined that one, didn't he?
I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Carrie's already trying to change that, because I think she introduced herself as the education director. No, you're going to have to be the dope.
Yeah. She doesn't see the humor in it.
Yeah.
But how has it changed? And I don't know. I mean, it's must have gotten bigger.
A lot bigger.
Are there similarities? Are there differences? When you see the staff now versus then?
So, when I first got, we'll talk about when I first got on the staff. So back in like 1987, when I made dev team, the education staff was a lot smaller. And mostly because we didn't have level 1 at that point. And so there were far fewer assessments, and the membership was quite a bit smaller. So it was, a small group. You got to know people pretty easily. And they got to know you, and you had to behave. But to some extent, but anyway, but it was a really good group to work with. And over the years, it's just gotten, quite a bit larger. We didn't have the DCLs, which eventually now are part of the dev team crew. And it was mostly, the dev team was probably about 12 people, 12 to 16, depending on the year. Whereas now it's up around 32, 30, you tell me.
It's like, we'll see what elevation have, but it was around, I think it was just under, well, with our Cat A's, it's up there in the 36.
Right. Yeah.
Dev team alone is, now with the new 14 is probably almost 30.
Right. Wow. So quite a few there. And great people. I heard you got a good bunch. So that's awesome. So anyway, because of the size of the membership growing, as well as the number of level 1s and events that we do, and we did over 600 events this year, we needed a larger ed staff. And also similar to what's gone on with, not as many full-time instructors, there aren't as many full-time skiers who are examiners now. We do have a lot of part-timers, so that requires having more as well. Yeah. But I mean, similarly, everybody takes it seriously, and trains hard, and I hope they train hard. But they take this, and as much fun as we have, they do take this very seriously, and try and be the best they can be, and the fairest they can be, and as professional as they can be. And I think that hasn't changed at all over the years.
Yeah. Well, and I can kind of put to that, and I'll put it in me. Like you said, some of these people take it pretty serious, and it's like at times you have to calm some of us down. And I'll say, just to me, it's like, because I do take it pretty serious, and like we get pretty heated. Like, we need this to happen, Don, and you're like, okay, we need to sit down and look at all the pieces and parts. There's got to be some other staff that are like that when they're coming to you, which you're pretty open to that kind of feedback of stuff. And as you described some of my feedback to you as Dave had another rant.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's passion, obviously, within this group. And some are more vocal than others. And I've always been like, just kind of calm. When inside I'm turmoil, but in the exterior, I'm pretty calm and try and look at, all sides of issues and come up with the best solution that I think we can, and then move from there. And meanwhile, you're going, no, we got to do this now.
Yeah, because I will get that going pretty heavy. And once I get on that scent, I don't come off of it too easy.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's all right. It's good. And every once in a while, you need Dave out there going, what's going on over here? And just to keep things moving, keep everybody involved.
No,
you do a great job.
Yeah, and so you're pretty humble. So where did you have your first knock on the road, or did you have one going to associate, then full, then dev team, then ETS?
Yeah.
Was there a bump in the road?
Yeah. I went to my first dev team tryout. It was in 1984. I did level 3 in 82. And I was the guy just under the cut line. And then I went back the next year, and I was a guy under the cut line. And I said, And at this point, I wasn't teaching full time.
Yeah.
I was actually managing a ski shop in Ithaca. And and teaching, a couple of evenings and weekends. But I decided if I really wanted to make the dev team, I was going to have to be full time again. So I went back, taught full time for a couple of years, and then tried out again in 87 and made it. And felt really good about it. It wasn't the guy just above the cut line. And I felt, like I did a good job at that assessment. The other thing about, when you're like the guy just under the cut line, at first you're like, oh, I missed the point. But somewhere down the road, you realize, I really didn't belong there then. And so I think they made the right calls each time. Well, I don't know about the time I made it, but
but it is wild because I remember Peter Holland, God rest his soul, man. I miss Peter Holland, but when he was at training, and you probably remember this, and he asked the whole board of examiners sitting there, how many of you failed something along the way, and he was shocked at like almost every single hand in the room went up. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of our membership thinks that just the ed staff just kind of rolled right through, but there's a lot of, as Angela, you said, man, you've had a couple knocks. I have. It's that persistence and working hard. And Don, you said, hey, I got to change some things. I'm going to get full time again. I'm going to start teaching full time to make this happen. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
it's that commitment. So I was certainly lucky, to have like. I go to get canted and I don't need them and that sort of thing. I don't have, huge equipment issues and, I'm usually in reasonably good shape. So I've been lucky in that way, but you have to work at it. And I mean, I remember doing things like when I was getting ready for the ETS exam, we were skating as far up. I was training with another person. We would skate as far up the hill with Sweet Foot and Free Peak, and then we pull our skis off and hike the rest of the way to the top, and then do one-legged hop turns as far as we could on one leg, and one-legged hop turns as far as we could on the other leg, and just things like that. Just trying to get in better shape on a small hill and be ready to go, wherever the assessment was. And in my case, it was Hunter for ETS, but just being ready for anything.
Yeah. Go ahead, Angelo. You had something to say, and do you remember?
I was thinking about the, like, getting knocked down. Like when you try out at events that only happen every 2 or 4 years, that's so high stakes when it comes to things like injuries and do you have a cold and all that stuff. And like a lot of that's just luck of the draw. But then I was just thinking about all the many ups and downs that happen along the way. Even when you are above the line, you're above the line and you had success, but then you're in a training group and realize maybe your teaching isn't where you want it to be, or your performance isn't where you want it to be. So it's like these many, I don't know if they're knocks, but they're definitely like dings, so it's not a POC-free pathway for anybody that I can think of,
No.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. I mean, it's as you're moving through it and, move on to like the dev team or to examiner training squad or ATP as we call it now. And you're tested along the way more than just when you're trying out for those assessments. So there's a crew watching you and that's a good thing. It keeps you on your game.
Yeah. So when did you become the ski school director position? Because which I didn't know, you were managing a ski shop, which had come off the hill from working full time, went managing a ski shop, and went back on the hill. But when did the ski school director type stuff come around? Because you were a ski school director for a long time, I know.
Well, yeah. So I was at Greek Peak for 16 years, and then when Whitetail opened up, Ron Hawks, who was the director, called me in the fall and said, "Hey, you're all interested in helping start a ski school?" And so I went down and checked out the place, and Tom Reifert was there also as Ron's assistant. And it just looked like it was going to be a ball. So I jumped in there, did that for the next 6 years. I was like the nighttime supervisor, and at one point I became the assistant director. Tom had moved up to the director's job. And so Ron had gone off to Round Top, I believe, at the time. So, but anyway, at one point, the job opened up at Peak and Peak. And I was talking to Ron Hawks about it. And Ron grew up around Buffalo, and Peak and Peak's out west of Buffalo. But he had played golf there, and I remember him talking about playing golf there. So I gave him a call, chatted with him a little bit about the place, and it sounded interesting. So I threw my hat in the ring, went out, had a good interview, was lucky enough to get the job. That was in 1996. And I stayed for 16 years. So it was a long time at a small hill that I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in all of this, at some point, I heard a story about how you met Karen, and I'm wondering if that story is true.
What'd you hear?
Well, I heard that an ex-boyfriend of hers connected her with you for her to get some ski lessons. And the big question I have is, it shows it as an ex-boyfriend. Was it an ex-boyfriend at the time, or was it the boyfriend at the time?
Ex-boyfriend. And actually, he and I were living in the same house. It was the first year at Whitetail. And we were living we had rented like this big farmhouse that I guess used to be a bed and breakfast at one point. There were about 6 of us living there. But he was also a percussionist, played with the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Baltimore Symphony, did Karen. They actually had the same job. It was they were 4th percussionists, and they would rotate that spot. So anyway, he called her up and told her, hey, you should come learn how to ski. And at least according to her, he said, and there's this guy I want you to meet. And she said, no, and no. And she sort of figured that they hadn't worked out. So why would he be able to pick some guy for her? But eventually one day I should have her come downstairs and tell the story, but
yes.
Karen,
that would be right. We've got to do that. This is Chaos and Company, Angelo. We have to have her do that.
Having company.
Oh, I love it. This is perfect. This was like in the Buffalo News, I believe.
Like, you're telling it all wrong. So
I know. We need the person who knows it. And Karen. So Karen, I heard a story about how you met Don, and that's why I was asking him. So we're curious for you to tell us the story of the ex-boyfriend introducing you and the ski lessons and all that.
Well, I didn't ski, and he was learning to become an instructor, and we were still friends. We weren't dating any longer, but he kept telling me, you need to learn how to ski, and there's this guy I want to introduce you to. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not interested. And then one day I woke up early, which if you know me, you'll know is very rare for me. And I decided I'm going to learn how to ski today. So I ended up driving out to Whitetail where he was. And that night he introduced me to Don. And then a week or so later, I went back. And he wasn't in town, but I took a lesson at the resort from another instructor. And I knew that he was somebody who was, just by law of averages, he was going to ask everybody out. And so he asked me out, and I wanted to make sure he understood this was not a date. So I decided to ask Don along because I at least knew who he was at that point. And so I asked him along on our non-date, and Don and I totally hit it off. So after that, I spent many, many days learning how to do falling leaves and all these other wonderful things, and fell in love with skiing and teaching, and Don pretty much on the same day.
That is
the rest is history.
Yep.
That is awesome. And you must be pretty proud. I mean, he's had the lifetime award from National for PSIA-AASI. Pretty amazing, and all the things he's done. And he's not done. I mean, he's retired from the director of education programs, but he's coming out and he's got his big bourbon bottle, and he's ready for some bourbon calls, and he's ready to get out there and do it again on the hill with all of us. I mean, you've been teaching at Wyndham, but I mean, you want to get back out there. And I think the first thing we should have him do, Angelo, is he does about, 10 or 12 days of assessments.
Well, I was thinking the first thing he'd do is let us try bourbon out of that bottle.
Yeah.
Then he can do the assessments.
Yeah.
That feels fair.
So Don, you've been doing this a long time, and Angela and I have too. I mean, I've been doing it for over 30 years now. Karen, don't leave yet. Don't let her leave yet. Not yet. And I'm curious, because I was going to ask this anyways, but Karen's right there. That for me to be able to do what I do with the ski world would not be possible without my wife, with Andrea. So I'm just curious of how much and how supportive and how Karen has been for you to be able to achieve everything you have and enjoy the ski world like the way you have.
Yeah, the good thing for me, she actually absolutely loves to ski, so that's really helpful. And both of us, for as long as I've known her, have been working in a business that we absolutely love. Me in the skiing business world the whole time, skiing, snowboard, and Karen originally, playing with the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Baltimore Symphony and the Pittsburgh Symphony and all that. And somehow we managed to juggle it, but she has been hugely supportive of me continuing to follow this dream of mine through tryouts and different times where we're just trying to figure out who's going to be able to take care of a dog or dogs, whatever, or all the things that complicated schedules bring up. But I could not have a better partner, supporter, whatever.
That's awesome. And Karen, we want to thank you.
Hugely lucky.
Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for supporting him till he's out there doing it with us. And he's been the boss since 2012. And I've known him longer than that, being a staff member. So it's been awesome. And thanks and what are you going to do? He's going to be like skiing. I haven't asked him yet, but I imagine he's going to be on the hill a bunch next winter, and you'll be in the office. So I hope, is he allowed to post things or say, hey, the skiing was great today, before he asks you how your day was?
Totally. I'm thrilled. When I met him, I learned early on every day was going to be a great adventure, and I'm in whatever it looks like. That's all great with me.
That's cool. That's awesome. Because I'm imagining you're going to be up at Wyndham quite a bit, and hopefully doing some events with us. So yeah, he's
yeah. That's right now. That's the plan. I'm hoping to mix things up between continuing to teach Power Learn, doing some other things for Wyndham, and then being on the road with PSIA, doing some clinics and assessments and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So you've been, and while Karen's here, I got to ask this question while she's here because, you've been as the boss, and you've been the boss for me for quite a while now. And it's pretty cool. I think the relationship. No, well, she is. I call her the boss too, because I call the office and I have a members. I'm going to call Karen. But as the boss, you have been incredible to allow us to be us, and especially me to be me, and to be able to create events. To call you up like I did this year and go, hey, I want to do these 2 events at Ragged, and they're like, not even 3 weeks out. The MA stuff that Chris and I have done over the years, just different stuff that we've been able to do. And even as the coach of the dev team, you're very good at allowing your staff and your coaches to do their jobs without micromanaging. And I'm just curious, as have you always had that? Have you developed it? And if you fib, Karen's right there. She can tell us if you've always done that or not.
Well, one thing Karen knows is that I trust trustworthy people, and I work with the best snow sports school, in my opinion, in the world, and that would be the Eastern Ed staff, and they never let me down. And so when you come to, it isn't one of those every time someone comes and has an idea that I go, oh yeah, let's do that. Right. But when someone comes with a good idea, the cool thing is, I know that if the idea is good, this is a staff that can pull it off, and especially someone like you, Dave, who's been doing it for a long time. You first of all, you didn't just come say, "Hey, this is what I want to do." You gave me a kind of a rundown of what you were going to cover and how you were going to do it, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, absolutely, that sounds great, and honestly, I want to kind of tracking that and seeing how the people who took those courses are doing, and it's something that I think we want to probably put on the schedule for next year. And I'm guessing Carrie's either probably already talked to you or will talk to you about it. But it's again, when you have people who are talented and passionate, and where they're going to show up, it's really easy to say yes.
Yeah. Well, it's cool because you've done that, and a lot of times you get shut down. It's like, well, that might be hard to pull off, but it's like, then I love it because for me when I'm able to bring that information, you're like, yeah, go do it. It's like, okay, I better pull it off, or he's going to be calling me on it, and I don't want that to happen. So it's like it in some ways, I think it makes, I know it does for me, and I think a lot of the staff it gets us to work harder to pull it off, knowing that you trust us.
And I appreciate, and it's also great that the staff has that creativity, that they do come to me with ideas of things to do. So, and yeah, there are times I have to say no. But it's usually the almighty dollar that causes that more than anything else. But But anyway.
So the last thing, and then I'll let Karen go because I know she's just hanging there like, well, how long is it going to keep me? But so what's the one thing that you have on the list? Because I guarantee now that he's like retired, there has to be, the honey-do list must be building. He must have certain projects he has to do for the summer. Like, what's top on the list?
I think we need to go skiing.
There you go. You should have booked some flights and headed out to Big Sky.
He's been a big teacher for me, and I'm hoping we can continue working on my versatility.
There you go. We've heard Angelo. We heard it. So we're going to call him on it and ask him if he's been doing that with you. So we'll make sure that happens.
We may have to head west. We were thinking about, where are we going to go this weekend? And there are a lot of resorts still open, but it's supposed to rain pretty much through the weekend. So do we want to travel and ski in the rain? Well, we probably will. But anyway, but it might be one of those things where, the guy who introduced us lives in Breckenridge now. So we call him up and
there you go. That works. Yeah. and so what I have to ask you, because and I don't want you to be too humble. I want you to really let us know, because to get this award, I think, is amazing, and to be recognized by our organization nationally, to get the National Lifetime Achievement Award is huge. It's not like a lot of people get this. This is something that you've been working on, not working on to get that award, but you've done stuff over the years for the ski world, for instructors, for members. So what does it mean to you?
Well, I'm really honored to receive the award. I think, you go through life and you do your job and you try and do it well. And when you get recognized for it, it's pretty cool. I just, there are obviously things I would do slightly differently if I was doing it over again, but for the most part, I'm happy with the way things have turned out. And it's been so cool to work, at a national level as well as at the Eastern level, with PSIA-AASI. Some great people, awesome people nominated me for it, and the board approved it, and I feel really blessed. So anyway,
so Karen, how many people along the way do you think Don has influenced, helped, mentored, coached, developed into the amount of people they're out there helping? Because I know he's been a great mentor and coach and boss for me. So it's got to be immense. You've seen him and been right along the journey.
Yeah, and honestly, and I'm not at all biased, I have to say, but he's literally one of the kindest men on the planet. And
yes.
It's everyone from people within our industry to, we'd only been married a short time. And at one point he kept checking our mailbox. And I said, why do you keep running down to check the mailbox? He said, well, I gave some money to a homeless person and he said he was going to return it. So I'm checking the mailbox because he said he would put it in the mailbox. Now, of course, it never got returned, which was fine. But that's the person that he is.
In other words, I'm gullible.
No. He's the person who's helping out, people on the street, or, it doesn't matter who it is. He's that guy who's, just really trying to make a difference in the world, no matter what. Yep. He's the person who'll hold the door open.
Yeah. And I think he has made a difference, a very positive, good difference, which is awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it has. When you're able to flourish as a staff member and be able to have fun doing it and do creative things, it's fun. So I have definitely enjoyed having you in the position you are and working with you and working for you. It's been really good for me. I've really enjoyed it. And I think a lot of members out there, even if they don't know the impact that you've had, because they might not have met you or talked to you, I think the things that you've done in the job have allowed the staff to do things that are your influence.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the support from you and so many other people. So, including Angela, who's just sitting there nodding.
Well, it's funny because I'm thinking first of all, looking at the screen right now, I'm having some flashbacks to late spring, early summer 2020 when the whole world shut down, and I was driving home from somewhere, and I don't remember if I called Don or if he called me, but that was when we talked about beginning the webinar task force, because we had to go into online mode, and I think we canceled somewhere around 100 Eastern events. And if I remember, sorry, Stuart's wrecking the whole studio here. We canceled about 100 Eastern events, and I think it impacted about 1,200 Eastern members who needed updates or had exams coming up. And we really quickly went into webinar emergency mode like everybody else did. And that's when I really got to know Don well, and Karen too. And we spent hours and hours on Zoom calls trying to figure out things. And I think Dave, you were on a lot of those calls, and I think I'm not sure if when that started, you were the dev team coach. If I remember right, you became the coach after 2020, correct?
Correct.
I'm just thinking like Don obviously was instrumental in that. And like from my vantage point, I went from, my life was crazy. I had left a career and I wasn't quite exactly sure what I was going to do, but he had enough faith in me or nobody else was, and none of the good people were available. But in any case, I ended up running this task force, which turned into national webinar task force, which turned into national people skills task force, and then Eastern Education Committee. And now all of a sudden, in large part because of Don and Karen and you, Dave, and a whole bunch of other people, like I am where I am today because of the three of you on this call. And it's just everything he's saying humbly, and you're trying to get him to say a little more in a forthright way, Dave, is from my perspective, is absolutely true. Like he supported me, and I owe gratitude of thanks to Don, well, to all three of you really. But yeah, it's just a testament to everything that everybody says about you, Don. Kind and generous, and all the things. A real pro. I came from really humble roots. My dad was probably the most humble person I've ever met. I can't shake it. So anyway,
that's okay. If you won't say it, we'll say it, because no, it made a big difference in a lot of folks. And that's my question. Like, you have an in the office a little bit, I hope, with James and Melissa and even Karen. Like, you must be picking and choosing what events you want for next year. Like, I'm assuming we'll see you at Pro Jam with a group.
Oh, I hope so. That's in the plan. So, I imagine that'll be something they'll let me, get hooked up with, but we'll see.
Yeah. And what are you thinking of next year? Like, I know you're probably going to be cranking out a bunch of power learn, as you have been almost every weekend now, but I know some of that power learns on Fridays and Mondays, but like, what are you looking for days for PSIA? You're going to come out there with us, aren't you?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to look at the schedule, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing with Wyndham. Dan and I are having a chat sometime after the National Academy. And hopefully I can help them out with some stuff. But the plan is to still have plenty of time to teach Power Learn and to get out on the road and do PSIA days. But it's going to be a busy full winter, I can tell. So I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm going to try and let them, where I'm living now, getting to Vermont, New Hampshire isn't that much of a stretch. Yeah. And not like when I was out at Peak and Peak, and I would get out to Vermont at the beginning and the end of the season, and that was it. But so I'm hoping to do some events up in your neck of the woods, Dave. So
that'd be awesome.
You can overstudy me and give me a hard time.
There you go. Oh man, I don't know if I want to have to do that. Oh. But and what's on the bucket list? Karen said she wants to go skiing. So what's on the bucket list for skiing activities or trips? Is there like, we want to ski here?
Well, one of the things that she definitely needs to do, and I think wants to do, is she has never even been to New Hampshire.
Oh,
so we've got to get Karen up and let her see some of the White Mountains in New Hampshire and the Presidential Range and all that, and do a little skiing there. Maine is another thing that we need to do. I've never been to Sugarloaf, so that's on the list. But there are a lot of places that I haven't been, and so I've got all sorts of adventures, that I'm hoping that we can do. I've got lots of places out west I want to hit. Never been to Jackson Hole, never been to a lot of places. So, and then there's the old stomping ground from when I taught skiing in Switzerland, and I wouldn't mind doing a European trip again. So we'll see. Super cool. And somebody mentioned the other day that if you didn't see the total eclipse, the complete thing, you really need to go see the next one. So I think the next one's in Australia in 2 years. So, maybe cool. Australia or New Zealand. So
there you go. Nice. I like that. That's what I was going to ask. What is the retirement bucket list outside of skiing? So there it is. You got to go to Australia to see the eclipse.
Eclipse. Hopefully during the ski season. I don't know when to do.
You can hit them both at the same time. I love it. I super love that. That's awesome. And Angela, what do you have for him? I know you've written down a couple things.
I think they're going to each need a caddy for that trip to the next eclipse. So let's get our names in early for that.
That'd be good. I'd like that. Yes, absolutely. That would be cool. Yeah. And so Angelo, you're heading out to Big Sky, and you're heading out to National Academy, and we have our team heading out there. Our Eastern team's heading out. I'm not sure the exact number, Don. What is it? It's around just over. Is it just around 20 or just over 20?
Yeah.
That we have. So
it's a nice sized team. It's a good group, they're headed out there. So soon, I think someone already on the way. And
I think they're starting to head out there. Angelo's heading out there Saturday.
I'm wishing nothing but the best, and hopefully we get some more Eastern representation on the team. But no matter what, the whole process, we end up with better examiners, instructors, coaches. So I'm really psyched for all of them.
Yeah, it's awesome. We definitely want from the Chaos and Company crew to wish everybody luck out there from the East. And Angelo will be out there. He's a part of it, of course, in his position. He was actually doing some work just before we get on the podcast for the tryout. And he's got Academy coming up with a bunch of educational stuff happening at Academy, right, Angelo?
Yeah. We have Academy pretty well squared away. Everybody's pretty excited for that. I'm very excited. Pete Allison and I will be running an on-snow elective Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, kind of bringing the standards in the national alignment process to life. So that's I'm looking forward to that. And then we move right into selection. So we're getting those final details nailed down now. And then the one that kind of gets left out is I'll come home from the tryout and be home for, I think, 4 days, and then head back to Keystone for spring conference, which is regional leadership from across the country. And we basically will plan our summer work out then, with all the new, we'll have turnover at the national task force level as the team turns over. The chairs will be different, and just figure out everybody's marching orders for the summer and come home and after the first week of May and get that stuff started. So it's a pretty busy. It's 3 pretty big events within about a 4-week chunk, and I'm looking forward to every single minute of it, and I'm looking forward to getting home from spring conference and exhaling.
Yeah.
And Don, you'd usually be waiting for all that info, or you'd be part of that spring conference, and it'd all be coming home. You're going, oh my God, all this. Now it's like, think about the golf clubs, the bike, the honey-do list. Like you're in a good place.
Yeah, this is Carrie's first time on the ELC, so she'll be out there for the spring conference, and I'm going to be sitting here going, "You got a lot of work to do."
We're going to need a lot of.
There's a lot. It's some very challenging work they have coming up, and I feel really good about who's representing us, and it's a great team. And I got to say, I'm looking forward to being on the bike and waiting to hear what happens. So,
well, we're definitely going to need skilled leadership from each region to volunteer to get all this work done. So I got you on speed dial here.
Okay.
I would imagine. Go ahead.
One way or another, I'm hoping to contribute, and whether it's whether it's actually doing anything nationally or just throwing in my 2 cents from the cheap seats, but I'll help out one way or another.
That's awesome. I'm glad you can sit in that room and we can chirp together, and we can be in the peanut gallery yelling things out. You can have like a Dave rant.
Yeah. There you go.
If that's possible.
I'm looking forward to my first bourbon call.
There you go. Yeah. That's the first one. That's the first party right there. That's the first retirement party is bourbon call, man. Yeah, you'll see that Bob still holds court, man. When we have the bourbon call, Bob runs the show.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. He's been one of the leaders for a long time. So.
Yeah. So Don, any thoughts or any things for the team going out there? As as you said, you're officially retired now, and Carrie's officially the director of education programs. But what are your final thoughts on our team going out to the tryouts and because you've been on Eastern teams in the past, like I have. So you kind of know the training they've done leading up to this, and you've been the leader in the boss's seat with many teams going out there and coming back, and some of our people being successful, some not. What are some of your thoughts as that wise man to let them know what to think and do?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm super proud of all of them, and they've been doing the training on webinars and different things, and getting together on skis for some training, and just getting ready for the big event. I just wish them all the best of luck, and with all of these things, one bad turn doesn't ruin it for you. Just keep plugging away at it. Keep thinking about skiing in the future, not what you just did, and have a great time. Learn as much as you can, and we'll see where the chips fall. But I have a good feeling about it.
That's cool. That's good. And we want to definitely wish everybody on the snowboard, on the skis, on tele skis, all our adaptive folks are who are we missing? That's everybody, isn't it? Our adaptive folks are snowboard or tele
cross country this year, but maybe in the future. But anyway, we've got some telemark and some adaptive and quite a few snowboard and alpine. So it's a nice representation.
That's cool. And Don, thanks so much for all the years of service. And you're not done, boss, because I guarantee the last one you said you want to be involved. Well, you can be involved right there with that same jacket that Angelo, well, at least I wear. Angelo's got his national team uniform now, but that same jacket we'll have next to you, the nice blue jacket, and we'll get out there ripping it up.
It's going to disappoint Bob, but they're ordered.
Yeah. Are they orange?
No, they're blue.
Nope.
They're blue. Okay, yeah. Bob wants that. We need the red for Bob. He loves red. That's his favorite color.
So somewhere I saw a really cool fanny pack that I thought was all Bob.
His face turns red when he talks about uniforms, so maybe that'll cover it for that. Thanks for coming on, Don. It's been a pleasure, and so psyched to have you on. We'll definitely now we got to have him on, Angelo, coming on and talking about some ski educational stuff, just technique and out there and teaching, and because he's going to be doing it like full time now again. And but thanks so much for all the work and being a great boss. And Karen, thank you for supporting him and also doing a great job yourself in the office. And we appreciate all the work that everyone does there. I don't think everyone realizes until they chat with all of you or get involved a little bit to realize how much work and how much it takes, especially when the weather comes into play and things happen that we have to change things around. It's pretty impressive how it all gets pulled off. So thanks to both of you.
Thanks for having me on, and cheers to the greatest ski school in the world.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody out there for listening. And I hope everybody put some comments down on YouTube and send some things on Facebook to congratulate Don on his incredible career that's still going, but awesome honor to get the Lifetime Achievement Award from PSIA-AASI National. And he gets a coat for it and a patch, gets that. But the coolest thing, where's that bottle, Don, that Kathy gave you? That's the coolest thing. He's getting it. He's getting the bourbon bottle. This is the thing.
And while he's getting it, I'll point out that
they're
nice.
Beautiful.
Anyway, it's very cool.
Gotta love that. Some Whistle Pig or Basil Hayden will work good in that.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to point out that this was
cool.
This is Karen's return to the podcast.
Yes. That's right.
So she's an alum.
She is an alum. This is her second trip.
Podcast alum.
I love it. So this is awesome. And Karen, thank you very much. And thanks for letting us into your home. And thanks everybody out there for listening. This has been The Fall Line with Chaos and Company.